Everyone, welcome into another show with Chiro Secure. We're always looking to make your practice a little bit better. And what's coming for 2023? This is Sam Collins, the coding and billing expert for chiropractic and for you. Let's talk about 2023. What can we expect? What's going to change? What do we have to do differently? Well, let's find out. Let's go to the slides. So we say here, what to expect in 2023? Well, what to expect is always a little bit of updates, but more so, the biggest factor is always update yourself, change, update in the sense of how are you going to practice? Think of the new year. How are you going to make your practice better? What worked last year? What didn't work? And so forth. But let's talk about it from the real analytics side, meaning what's going on with reimbursements and insurance and so forth. A lot of people often think that plan changes occur at first of the year. And most insurances do not. So don't plan on or don't expect any plan changes. Certainly, you can verify a person's insurance to see if there's anything new, but very seldom does anyone have a plan that changes in January. Often it's going to be June or September, but certainly it's worthwhile to check to make sure, has there been any update? Not likely. What is going to change, or of course not change, but come back, are deductibles. So do be mindful. Deductibles will start January 1st. So we start that whole protocol again. And of course, remember, when someone has a large deductible, that likely means a cash patient, but those that have ones that are lesser can be good. Obviously, deductibles are something that are going to affect us, but keep in mind, for patients who only saw the doctor in the last quarter, a lot of insurance companies have what they call a rollover deductible, and that's worth looking into. Often, if the person has never been to any doctor within the year and just went sometime from October through December, often what they spent then will qualify for deductible for next year. In other words, the person's not being punished for getting sick at the end of the year. Like if you get to the doctor in December and then continued in January, a new deductible starts up. Most often that's not going to be the case and will roll over, but certainly worth checking. Now, of course, Medicare deductible always changes on January 1st. And this year, I will happily say, it went down a little bit. It's only $7 down, but nonetheless, it's now $226. So Medicare deductible for next year will be $226. My little trick to this is don't be so anxious to send out your claim right at the beginning of the year. Most Medicare patients obviously go to a lot of medical doctors. Let that medical doctor bill and eat up that deductible, much easier for them than for us. And then therefore the patient's not having to come out of pocket to us. Certainly it can be considered anyway. Maybe within the first month, don't send the claim until February or so, until it's been met elsewhere. Now, what will also update, of course, are going to be fees. And people often say, are fees going to update? Well, unfortunately, Medicare fees do update. Often work comp fees do as well. But general health insurances, as much as we would like them to, do they update on January 1st? Not often. And this year for relative value units, you'll see very little change. There'll be little adjustments, but nothing earth-shattering. In fact, what you're going to find for most of you for Medicare rates, they're going to have gone down a tiny bit, like 1%. Now, 1% is not too bad, but it's nonetheless not an increase. So you're going to expect probably, I'm going to estimate between 50 cents and $1 for each of your Medicare codes that are going to be less this year. And don't forget, there's the 2% sequestration that came back in. Still reasonable reimbursement for most areas for Medicare, about $40 for a 98941, give or take. But nonetheless, have you adjusted your fees recently? I want you to think back, and you can go back to one of the shows I did earlier this year. Have you really adjusted fees and looked at the relative value? Relative values often are not looked at well by chiropractors, and I generally will tell most offices, you're going to have a handful of codes that you're billing, maybe a few more than a handful. And of those, you're going to have half of those with an incorrect fee. By example, the fee for exercise and massage should actually be higher than 98940 because it has a higher RVU. The service therapeutic activities, 97530, so that type of exercise protocol, if you will, has a value of a 98941. Neuromuscular education has a value about 20% above manipulation. So you want to be careful. Often I find offices will have a code way below the expected rate. And of course, if you bill $30 for something and the plan is willing to pay $60, how much are they going to pay you if you bill $30? Well, $30, of course. So I would say take a look at your fees to see, are my fees in line? Do they fit relative value units, or am I way off? Because certainly that's something you should address each year, because there may be some fees you're off a bit. I do that with my network members once a year. Please make sure you do the same. Well, what's going on with changes, of course, with diagnosis? Well, we went through this earlier this year because it was October of this year. But remember, ICD-10 always updates in October for the next year. So the 2023 codes, of course, began a few months ago, but nonetheless, let's be mindful of what they were. If you didn't watch the show, there's some new codes for lumbar and lumbosacral disc, specifically for a annulus fibrosis defect. So a little bit different than the nucleus, kind of a more specific code for each region. Again, it's only for lumbar. Remember the one that says small is under 4 millimeters, large is above 4. This is probably going to be found on an MRI or similar, but certainly a new code that you can have instead of just using the unspecified diagnosis. What also changes, there's some new codes for muscle wasting, of course, for the spine. We've always had codes for muscle wasting. These are just specific to the spine, and you can imagine, are there some spine issues that you often want to report but can't, because you would have to put, well, there's muscle weakness. This is actually wasting. Think of someone that's been a lot of disuse for an area. That muscle wasting certainly would be a pretty significant finding and part of the reason for rehab. So some new codes there. But what else is new? Okay, we know that, okay, coding is updated a little bit. You should already be familiar with it. Well, the other thing that updated is concussions. And I'm sure you've probably seen it, but there's new concussion codes for unspecified amount of time, because the concussion codes before were always a specified amount of time. Now it's going to be, I don't know. I know I lost consciousness, but I don't know. Was it a minute? Was it 5 minutes? So I think that's a little bit more specific in the sense of not limiting it to a specific amount of time. I think most often, though, are you going to code probably post-concussion syndrome? Are you doing concussion evaluations for people who've been in accidents? I hope so. There's also a new code for post-viral fatigue syndrome. Well, that's going to be common post-COVID and so forth. Now, is that going to be a primary musculoskeletal code? No. But it could be a complication, a comorbidity. Even the dreaded ASH, and I say dreaded because so many people kind of lament about it, but they are looking for what information can you give them about the patient that needs them to prolong services. And a person with fatigue would need longer care than someone without. Now, it doesn't mean you're treating the fatigue, but you're dealing with the effects of it. Don't forget, complications and comorbidities do make a difference, particularly for plans where you have to deal with pre-authorizations. Think Premera, ASH, Optum, and several of these types of plans. Well, what's going on for CPT this year? What's changing there? Well, evaluation and management, of course, you're familiar with, did change a couple of years ago, where now you can use time instead of just medical decision-making, though both. So that's something new for chiropractic. But there's been an update to how we describe a new patient. Now, this may not be as prominent in a chiropractic practice, but they did update a new patient, of course, is what it's always been, brand new to your office, or you haven't seen them in 3 years. So that's no different. But what is also updated, though, is now it always said a different physician of a different specialty. Now it's more specific. So if you're working in a multidiscipline office, if a provider is not of the exact same specialty and subspecialty, even though they might two be the same, they can bill a new patient. So it's not limited before, as a chiro or an acu, or I shouldn't say an acu as much, but a chiro and or an MD that have subspecialties could bill a new patient if you have a different specialty. Now, probably not as specific for chiro, but at least nonetheless a new change that's there. Now, what has been affected, though, that's new for this year, 2023, is the consultation codes 99241 and 99245 were eliminated. So now we just have the 242, 43, and 44, and they're now described very similar to E&M codes, which are going to be medical decision-making, but also timed, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and 40. But I want to be careful, and I bring up these consultation codes because they've updated them. A lot of people go, oh yeah, because I'm consulting my patient. Let's remember, consultation codes are not for counseling. That's an often misnomer. Consultation codes are actually for a second opinion of a patient you're not treating. Someone has sent you for a second opinion and a report. So again, not maybe typical in our offices, but for those of you who are doing independent exams, certainly this would be the case. But again, this includes the exam and the report, a little bit more expensive, of course, because of the amount of work involved. But I want to make sure you know that they did update a little bit, but it is not for counseling. They've also eliminated in 2023 the prolonged service code 99354 and 355. If you recall those, and heck, if you've ever been to a seminar with me up to a few years ago, this was very prominent. This was the extra time code for an exam. Well, that's now no longer the case, because now instead, when you have extra time of an exam, you're going to use the code 99417, and that's for each additional 15 minutes beyond the time. So by example, if you have a 45-minute exam that goes to an hour, you would go from a 99204 to a 205. But what happens if I go 15 minutes beyond the 2:05 time? Well, that's where this code comes in, 99417. And remember, this time includes all the non-face-to-face things on the same day as an exam. Where this would be prominent, what if you have a patient that you received a lot of documents on them, reports, lab tests, whatever, and you review these on the day of the exam? That time counts towards the exam, and you would use the 99417 for each additional 15 minutes above and beyond. And that's not to be confused with these two codes, 99358 and 359. And they've updated the terminology a bit, but in simplest terms, these two codes are for record review, extensive records, if you will. So it's an evaluation and management, but record review. How many times have you gotten records from another doctor that you get a box or several inches? You may bill for it for the time you spend. 99358 is for the first 30 minutes. And then after an hour, each additional 30 minutes is 99359. I do want to implore, this is for extensive record review. But let me back up. Remember I said, what if you receive those records the same day, or you do it the same day as an exam? That record review actually counts towards the exam. So this is why 99417 may be more prominent than you might think. It's not just about the exam taking a long time, but all the data you may get. Think of a workers' comp personal injury where these patients have had multiple providers they've seen, or you're dealing with a long-term disability. That certainly could be the case. And again, these codes are very well payable by all payers. Well, there's something new. Well, I won't say new, but something I want to start to engage a little bit this year, what's called remote therapeutic monitoring. Now, this is going to require a very specific type of electronic health record system where you can do this monitoring where patients can log in. But I think it's well worth it because even the Medicare reimbursement for this is $166.25 per episode, which means every 30 days. Now, you might think, well, where's this going to fit on a personal or a chiropractic claim? I would say on a typical patient, maybe not, but what about a patient under long-term care with rehab, personal injury, where you're trying to transition them to a home exercise program comparative to one in the office, where you're going to bill for the setup of this, the monitoring of it, and then depending on how much time you monitor, and it's a minimum of 20 minutes a month, you get paid these amounts. Now, I'm just introducing this because the first step would be for you to understand this is for something that has to be done electronically, the so-called Zoom style, though you don't have to do it Zoom per se. It's just going to be interaction. But I think this is something that insurance companies have been looking for. They want us to engage patients in more home exercise programs. This might be a place where you might start looking at, ooh, is there a program I might do this with? I'm going to suggest you take a look at the company Web Exercises, as they have a protocol for it, but there's a few others, but I think theirs by far is the best one. So take a look. It's webexercises.com, but it's starting to think of not just because there's reimbursement, but how am I going to help my patient? You've all seen this. You prescribe a home exercise program for a patient. They don't do it. It doesn't work. And now all of a sudden your care plan has shown that it's not effective. Well, it wasn't effective because it wasn't a good follow through. This will kind of force the follow through because it monitors the patients as they log in to perform. Well, what about chiropractic and physical medicine? What's gone on here? Well, there's no updates to chiropractic codes. Those remain the same, but do be conscientious. If you're billing a 98941, how many regions must you diagnose minimally? At least 3, up to 4. So please make sure that you've diagnosed properly before using. And let's remember the values. A 98941 should be about a third higher than your 40 and so on. 98943 is literally just 2% below. So make sure your fees make sense. Now, what about physical medicine codes? Nothing new updated there. I do want to highlight, though, of course, the VA is covering laser. So I do want to highlight the VA is covering laser. A few others might. But are there any new codes there? No. But what I'm going to emphasize to you all is the proper documentation of such. We've run into problems where services are not documented well. I work a lot with ChiroSecure, and as many of you are aware, ChiroSecure offers a very robust coverage because it covers you for audit. So what do if all of a sudden an insurance company is sending you something saying, hey, this wasn't properly documented? Who's going to defend you? Well, that's what ChiroSecure does. Please make sure your policy is up to date, and if you're not with ChiroSecure, I'm going to recommend it. Because who's going to protect you? They're going to hire experts and attorneys to defend you. But you have to make sure why. Why are we defending? Because often the documentation doesn't match. So I want to make a real simple rule. Make sure that everything that you've provided is documented, and documented in such a way that if someone were to read it, they can see how it was done. If you indicated I did ultrasound to the knee, that actually wouldn't be adequate. You would want to indicate I did ultrasound to the left patellar tendon, zero point 0.5 at 8 minutes. That's very specific. So please make sure everything's documented. I do want to emphasize time. As many are aware, I'm on the Optum Health United Healthcare Coding and Reimbursement Committee. And one of the things they emphasize that chiropractors do very poorly is document time. So please emphasize time when it's a time service. I'm also going to say for documentation, this is not new. Please make sure you have proper outcomes. If you're not already, please make sure you have a good validated outcome assessment that you're doing at the initial visit, and then probably every 2 weeks. I'm going to recommend like a general pain index, pain interference. I mean, oswestries and all those are good, but sometimes patients have difficulty filling them out over periods of time. So have something simpler, but still functional. Let's remember, chiropractic works well, but can I see it in your notes? Even if your documentation is slightly below average, but you have a good outcome, that mostly will save you from any types of audits or other issues. And the other area I want to emphasize for 2023, and I've seen this a lot because I've dealt with this, and of course, this is also something ChiroSecure protects you with. What if an insurance is coming back saying, hey, we want to see the information of how you collected from the patient? And we've seen quite a bit of this with United Healthcare, as well as Cigna this year, actually this last quarter, where they're sending patients information and to you wanting to know who paid the copays, the coinsurance and deductibles, and are looking for any type of receipts or payments. So please make sure that patients are paying their copays and deductibles. Be careful. If you waive a deductible, it's a kickback. Now, absent a hardship here or there, remember, waiving fees is considered a kickback. It's also just bad business. If you're not collecting a $20 copay per patient and you're seeing 100 visits a week, my goodness, you're losing probably about $100,000 a year just off of that. So get in the habit, your services are valuable, collect. And if a patient has some issues, have them pay over time. But be very careful of just simply waiving. And we've run into a few offices because patients' deductibles are so high, they've just waived it. Well, maybe that type of patient, you might want to put on your cash plan, put on your prepaid plan, because they may not meet the deductible, and don't put yourself in trouble in helping them, help them in another way. Please bear in mind, your practice is yours. You define it. You set the parameters. And while I want everyone to have a very successful practice, I hope it's diversified so that when economy is changing or perception of such, you always have a place to fall back as you have many irons in the fire. Are there some good insurance plans? You bet there are. Are there some really awful ones? You bet there are. And remember, you can always cherry pick. Because you bill one doesn't mean you have to bill them all. Don't be afraid to accept certain ones. The only one that's an issue is Medicare. Remember, as a chiropractor, you do have to belong to Medicare, whether par or non-par, in order to see Medicare patients. And remember, if you want to make a change, we're still early December, you've got to do it now. If you want to change your status with Medicare, please do it before December 31st. If you do not, you can't change it during the regular part of the year. It's got to be only in the last quarter during the so-called enrollment period. There's a lot of new things and exciting. We have lots of seminars coming up. You'll see here the things we're covering, the locations. Take a look at our website, H.J. Ross Company. We are the definitive source of coding, billing, documentation, and frankly, reimbursement. Our seminars are not boring. We actually offer a service too where we can work with you one-on-one, where I become part of your office. Get an expert. Get your claims paid. I wish you all the best. I wish you a good new year, and thank you very much. I'll see you next time, everyone. See you in 2023. Good luck and best wishes.